Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast, where all accountants come to learn all the ways to grow your firm. And when you're in doubt, I am here to help you out. So if you're ready to learn and ready to grow your firm, then you're in the right place to sharpen your skills and increase your revenue. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, and our special guest is the president and founder of Meyer Tax Concierge CPA firm and the conciergecpa.com, which is a coaching program for accountants. Really helps you get an ROI to your executive clientele with tax planning strategies and efficiencies. She has a virtual team of 7 that span from Texas to Hawaii, and she does this by using ProConnect Tax Online and QBO. She is a top speaker, influencer, accounting industry with over 4,000 followers on social media, and also a proud participant of Intuit Tax Council and a member of Intuit TWN, and also an advanced certified tax planner at the AICTP. And she is also 40 Under 40 CPA Advisor winner of the fall of 2018. But before we dive into today's very juicy episode, all talking about time management around tax season for your accounting firm, if you ever have felt undervalued, which we're going to talk about today, I have a very simple 5-step process that accountants have used to go from waiting around for the busy season to really being able to work with higher level clients who actually pay you fees you deserve. But the most important is that they actually appreciate the work you do for them. So if you want that, you can just type in your email over at 5stepstoabundance.com and get my 5-step process. Again, 5stepstoabundance.com. And before we welcome Jacky here on the show, I want to make sure that I invite you to take a screenshot of today's episode on your phone. When you're finished listening to this episode, tag me, Michelle Weinstein, as well as our amazing guest, Jacky Meyer, and post on your LinkedIn, what is the biggest takeaway that you got from today's episode, and what are you going to put into action? Because there is so much juiciness and goodness on time management and appreciating your staff, and really some little subtle things that you can implement today. So once again, I invite you to take a screenshot of today's episode, post it on your LinkedIn, make sure to tag the 2 of us, and I'll make sure to comment over there, and we can help other accountants really learn how to feel appreciated, how to feel valued and get paid what you're worth, and really how to fix if you've got any staffing issues. And now let's welcome our special guest, Jacky Meyer, to the show.
Thank you.
I am so happy to have you here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And I think to have a firm of abundance, you have to also have really good time management skills. And I think, before we dive into all the great ways of time management for accountants and their firms, can you share with everyone a little bit about you that might not know you yet?
Sure. So I founded Meyer Tax Consulting, a CPA firm, about 8 years ago. And for 3 years ago or so, I completely converted my practice into value pricing and tax strategies for high net wealth, and got involved with the AICTC, which is an amazing organization, and also starting coaching other accountants via my website, theconciergecpa.com, because of how firm of the future, so to speak, my firm has become. And so we have just under 100 clients at my firm, and we average value bill about $12,000 a year for each of those clients. And then I offer coaching for other accountants that want to become a modern and efficient firm as well.
Nice. And modern and efficient is what we are talking about today. Because when you started, Jacky, how many clients did you have 8 years ago when you started?
Well, I started with 0 clients, but it built up to about 300, I think. And so I was overworked. underpaid, understaffed, just like the typical CPA firm. And, I didn't have children when I first started my firm, so it wasn't a big deal to work lots of nights and weekends. But now I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old, and they do not allow that from me. So
Right.
I had to start revamping once I started having children. And, I was just kind of forced into change, and thank goodness for it.
Well, sometimes we have to get forced into change, or for someone listening today, you can just make a different choice and change based on all of Jacky's wisdom that I'm sure you're going to share today. Because going from 0 clients to 300 and then tapering back down to 100, I'm sure took a lot of managing your time. And I think a great, segue into today is, what are like some of the best time management tips that you have for accountants around managing their time, especially during tax season? Like, what do you think like the top 3 tips and why would be on what created this, success for you in getting this firm and the consulting and I know you have a mastermind group too, so you can contact Jacky for that if you're interested. But like, what are the 3 things that you believe for time management tips that will help any accountant listening today?
Okay, yeah. So that's quite the loaded question, but I have found, let's take it step by step here. But I have found there's kind of 3 key categories that we can fix and prevent the typical issues in our industry around. And so those tend to be, being undervalued, underappreciated, and understaffed. So let's dive into undervalued. So are you value pricing? If you aren't, what's holding you back? Because there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much capacity that one person can give. So no matter how many people you add to your firm, if you're hourly billing or fixed fee billing based on the hours that could be involved, you're kind of on a rat wheel, right? You're kind of just going in circles. So it's important, I think, whether you're having a time management issue or not in our industry, to be able to stand out now and have a value proposition, whether that's tax strategies like my firm does, or outsource CFO services. There's all kinds of cool stuff and niches that people are coming out with now, but you really need to get plugged in with a peer group that's going to help you figure out what your value proposition is and how to make your time more efficient around that.
All right.
Yeah. So the second thing I would say out of my 3 is underappreciated. And so I actually sold 60% of my clients 3 years ago. I did a partial sale through a broker that would, deal with a partial sale, which there aren't that many out there. But I decided, I evaluated my client list. I said, you know what? I know this client, this client, and this client, they love me to death. They'll kind of be my guinea pigs for value pricing. Let's see what we can do for them. And I went for it. And it was very successful. And so then I kind of kept going down the list of like the clients that I could convert to value pricing and really add to their service offerings. And there were ones that obviously stood out at the bottom of that list, or ones that you just don't match with personality wise, whether they're, you could add value or not. It just doesn't jive, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The like PETA clients, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
we've talked about those here before. Yeah. The pain in the ass clients.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay to say that.
Yeah. Okay. So I sold off the ones that I knew I couldn't service well. And then I refocused on, a third of the client list that I had before, and ended up increasing, each client's price point dramatically, from averaging maybe $2,000 to $3,000 a year to over, $10,000 to $12,000 a year. And so that freed up quite a bit of time. Another thing that we do and that I teach in my mastermind group is resetting client expectations, because in today's modern world, right, quote unquote, everyone expects to get a hold of you within 5 seconds. And that is a big stressor on accountants. We're always kind of like, I don't know if we got into this industry because we like the stress, but we claim to not like the stress. Or what's going on with us, but we're always like trying to be so reactive. And so we need to reset the client's expectations. Hey, my staff check their email 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day. You have an assigned project manager at my firm. I'm copied on all the emails, but I probably am not going to respond to 99% of them. And so, getting someone else into that relationship with the clients and, retraining the clients into appropriate expectations of when they can get a hold of us and why, those are really important things to get your time back.
And also, can't you, if they want to communicate with you and talk to you, if you add value and set up monthly meetings where they're paying for that time in your value billing model, would that be another option that you offer?
Yeah, for sure. So that's exactly right. So it comes down to proactive planning, right? So you're setting the correct expectations up front when you onboard that client or when you convert the client to say, hey, we're going to meet 4 times a year, hopefully via web meeting. But, some people still like that in-person or face-to-face stuff. But that will be the time for you to, drill me about these questions or that. If they shoot you an email with a quick question, never a quick question, you say, oh, well, we've got our meeting coming up next week. So let me know the urgency on this. If it's an emergency and we need to talk now, I would be happy to schedule something on my eCal. If it's not, let's add it to our list of things to talk about in that scheduled time.
Yep. Perfect. So let's talk about selling 60% of your clients, because I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, well, Jacky, how did you do that? And how did you still pay your fixed costs and overhead and payroll, whatever else? Like, what are the few things that you can share? And maybe who was the broker that you use that you can, walk a couple people through the mindset of how to get rid of even 60% of your clients 3 years ago?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing that really gave me the confidence to do it was the fact that I had already started converting a few clients to the value pricing and was seeing such tremendous results that it didn't scare me as much. But another thing about it that I don't think people think about at all is the fact that when you sell your client list, you're getting another year worth of revenue off of those clients without doing any work. And so you're actually padding yourself for the next year because you sell them for 110% of their annual billings. And so you've got that padding involved once the sale occurs to kind of, use those savings towards your other costs as needed. And Kathy Brent is who did my accounting practice sale. And I feel embarrassed because her company name, they all are kind of very familiar sounding. I'm pretty sure it's Accounting Biz Brokers. So she was awesome. Yeah, I think it's Accounting Biz Brokers, but she was really cool. And she would do the partial sale at a minimum that made sense for, it was a lot of my clients, but it wasn't the ones that I wanted to be spending all my time on. And so she worked with me to be able to do that and get it done well.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things here is that you converted a few clients to value pricing, which gave you the confidence to say, okay, I can do this. This isn't so scary. So maybe how many clients would you recommend someone who's got their own accounting firm, they want to sell off half or 60% of their other clients before making that transition where it's not so scary and they do have a little bit more confidence?
Well, I would first pick, your number one favorite client. Now, that's not going to be your highest paid client, but it's definitely one that loves you, adores what you do. You've probably found some cool savings for them in the past just by, accident, because if you're not value pricing, you probably just gave it away for free, all that value. But they're kind of like forever in your debt, so to speak. And so pick that client first and approach them with the value proposition and think about what you can add to their offerings. Mine was an executive that's local to me in South Lake, Texas. And his first year that he came to me, he had a $150,000 amendment that I did because he was filing his own taxes and completely screwed something up. It wasn't even like a complex issue. It was just something he had really messed up. And so I knew he was going to be my fan for life. And so I went to him and said, hey, I think we could add a family limited partnership into your mix. We could add a C Corp management company into your mix. And you're going to pay me like 4 times the cost, but you're going to get $80,000 plus in return on investment per year. So hey, let's do it. And he's like, okay.
So he was your
And
number one
then,
client that loved and adored you, and he would be forever in your debt, right?
right.
That's how you
Exactly.
picked him.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just kind of went down the list of my other favorite clients and how much value I could add. And so I actually would do screencasts. So Screencast-O-Matic is one of the platforms out there, but you can record your screen. So I could just record my screen on my own time whenever I wanted to, and I could pitch a plan to a client, show them how much value I can provide, show them our cost and that net return on investment, shoot them the video, let them watch it whenever they want to, and then they would just respond with like yay or nay, and 99% of the time it was yay. And if it wasn't at that point, I would decide, well, do I add that to a list of clients that I sell off because they may never be the right fit for this? Or do I give them a little bit more time? And so there were some clients that I was like, you know what, this might not be the time to convert, but next year I think will be. And so I'm going to keep them around.
No, that's awesome. And now this brings to the next point, because now you've gotten rid of 60% of your clients, which, like you said, 3 years ago, now you're able to manage your time better. I'm curious to know, what are some effective time management strategies that we haven't talked about yet? Some new ones maybe, that you can, that someone listening can use, especially around tax season time.
Sure. Okay. So the third key thing that I find causes time management issues is being understaffed. And it took me so long to hire the appropriate people. I tried to control everything. I didn't want to pay another person. I didn't want to manage other people. But at the end of the day, no matter how you're pricing, whether it's value pricing or hourly, you need staff that you can rely on. And so I would say, first thing, take a step back and look at all the mundane tasks that you're doing as an accounting firm owner. Are you scanning things? Are you doing all these client calls that are scheduling meetings? Because we waste a lot of time in that minutia day to day. And so I think an office manager or assistant is like number one key thing to get, if you don't already, for this next busy season, to kind of take some of that random minutia off your plate. But outside of that, for myself personally, I love time blocking. And so every week I will block out when I'm doing tax technical work. So I might have on Monday, 2 hours blocked to review returns, 2 hours blocked for sales opportunities. I actually don't do very much sales anymore because the firm is, pretty full. We're doing well. And the coaching has been so rewarding that I've kind of refocused on that this year. But, everyone has their kind of blocks of time, and I get really detailed with it. Imagine that as an accountant. But I block my lunch when I have my green smoothie. I block, nail appointments that I need to go to every few weeks, or else I'll bite my nails. These things sound so stupid, but it's important to get those little things done and off your plate and pre-plan them so that they don't, wind up being a big deal later. And so
what tools do you use for that? Like your regular calendar, or do you have any sophisticated, like your screen recording stuff, anything that's your favorite?
Yeah, good question. So I use Google Cal. And so I actually just time block in Google Cal. And I've gotten all of my staff to do the same thing. So when we get a project in, we use a workflow system called Jetpack Workflow, which is pretty awesome. It's completely web-based. Our office manager, quote unquote, logs in the file, although we're completely paperless. So we receive our clients' info electronically. And then she'll actually go in and block the staff member's calendar within the next 5 days to make sure that they have the time allocated to prep the work. And then also it goes to the tax manager, and she gets an hour blocked on her calendar as well to review the work. And, just like anybody trying something new, my staff were pretty hesitant about it, but I have to say that they are coming around, and they were like, I can't believe we waited so long to do this, because now I get what you were telling me years ago, that I should be doing this because it works. And so, yeah, it's really, really nice to do time blocking. I also actually create an annual tax calendar. So on top of just the compliance deadlines, obviously we know 4/15 is a tax deadline. We're also going to pre-schedule HR stuff, vacation. Oh my goodness. I went so many years without pre-scheduling my own vacation. And as a business owner, you never get it if you don't pre-schedule it. And so you have
Did you buy the tickets too? Like the plane tickets?
Yeah.
I always say your vacation starts when you buy the plane tickets.
Well, I would just try to work it all in when my husband would book, our annual ski trip or whatever, and it would end up being a disaster. So now I pre-plan all of that stuff, and gosh, it makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, so I have a full annual calendar. I actually have a complimentary CPE that people might want to come to. It's ironically called Make Busy Season Great Again. No
Perfect.
politics intended, just jokes. But I'll actually be sharing that annual calendar through that CPE, and it's through CPA Web Engage or CPAacademy.org. So people can go search for it there, and it's coming up in June.
Okay, awesome. So those are like the three main things. Plus you've got your time blocking, Google Cal, Jetpack, and, your annual tax calendar. But what about like managing your stress? Because you seem to have done a really great job at managing it. You're so happy and bubbly all the time and, stress-free. So what are like three things that you did personally, Jacky, like some really cool stories that maybe someone listening's never heard of before that you do to really manage your stress? I mean, you've got two little ones, you've completely shifted your firm. Share with us like a few.
Yeah. Well, I would say the number one thing that's helped shift my perspective is I had a traumatic event happen to my sister last year, and I was such the workaholic, even after having kids. I could not imagine life without my work. And so I would constantly just be thinking, well, oh, here's the next great idea for work, blah, blah, blah. But then when my sister hit her head and had a traumatic brain injury and had to relearn to walk and talk and move her fingers and very basic human nature aspects, I guess you could say, it really puts life into a different perspective. And I really try not to take this stuff too seriously. I mean, there are rarely actually any accounting emergencies out there. And as long as you're proactively setting the right guidelines with clients about what to expect about an IRS notice or how long you expect to take to prepare their tax return, setting those guidelines is going to save you a lot of pain and worry later. And then it's all just a breeze after that, right? So, I mean, I try to just have a much, a much higher level, out of the weeds perspective on our work, because yes, it is very serious stuff, but at the end of the day, people will survive if, one tiny little thing slips through the cracks here or there. So that would probably be my first piece of advice. I also actually, on a daily basis, I spend time in meditation and prayer. And so whether it's 2 minutes or, every now and then I might be able to get like 30 minutes in, but I'm definitely like a multitasker, so it's hard for me. I take that 2 minutes and I spend that meditating, just clearing my mind in prayer about the things that are important to me in my life. And of course, lifting up my staff members, lifting up my peers that I know, my mastermind students. That really gives me a much more positive perspective on life on a daily basis.
No, that's a huge one for, managing stress for sure. But I think for anyone who hasn't had a traumatic experience with someone close to you, learning from Jacky's experience, like you said, no one's really going to die. And if you set the guidelines with the clients, which I think is the most important thing here, it will take out the pain and the worry that I think the accountants have to deal with so often. Are there any other, before we wrap up today, time management tips, strategies for accountants that we haven't discussed yet, but like that one or two that you're like, you know what? I remembered this one too.
Yeah. So I think taking care of your health in general. So again, it's about pre-planning so that you're not wasting time in the middle of busy season. But, you can do pre-ordered meals. You can order massages for the office. You could do a once a month, kind of happy event for the team. You could have silent office hours. during busy season where you literally are telling clients, hey, we're not going to be answering the phones between this time and this time. Imagine how much that helps someone's stress level. So pre-planning out all of those little nitty-gritty, like personal health items is really going to help save you that stress later. I know that I would forget to eat. And so I would skip lunch constantly. And so that's why lunch is always on, like blocked in my time blocking day now, because otherwise I would just get meeting after meeting. I would forget. And then I started having like low blood sugar issues. And of course that causes like a really terrible, stressful feeling. So it's just like this really vicious cycle. And so you've got to take care of yourself. You know, you need to maybe get like a personal trainer to come to the office and do some personal training sessions with a team in the middle of busy season, get people's mind off of all the yucky negative stuff that's going on and, you know, reinvest in them and make them feel good about themselves.
No, I love it. It's so important. And I mean, I'm a big health and fitness person myself. So I'm like, yes, preach.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Jacky, for being here with us today on the Abundant Accountant podcast. You definitely created the firm of abundance for yourself. And if you want to check out her mastermind group, where can they find you?
TheConciergeCPA.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
What an amazing episode with Jacky today here on the Abundant Accountant podcast. I always love talking about ways to make your life easier, especially during tax season as it relates to time management. But I would say the biggest takeaway that I even heard today is not only what she talked about, you know, if you're underappreciated and really shifting that and undervalued and understaffed, but what can you do to put things into practice today? Using Google Cal, that's great. I mean, personally for me, I have 2 podcasts. I have my online course for accountants where we really, you know, dive into all your sales conversations. I have enrollment calls all day. I live my life by my calendar. And if it wasn't for that, you know, I wouldn't have the sanity that I have. And I think really, you know, Jacky went over it for Google Cal, but blocking out and doing time blocking and implementing that today will make the biggest difference in your firm. When I'm in class with all the accountants, we talk about time blocking for follow-up. I time block for my yoga class, for when I do my follow-ups with each of you. So it's super duper important. And also, if you are an accounting professional and you worry about being undervalued, underappreciated, and you really struggle, you know, with that inconsistent cash flow during tax season and the stress of it, I can help. I've got a 5-step process that can help you go from like waiting around for busy season to really closing higher level clients that you are loving working with and actually appreciate you for the work that you do. So head on over to 5stepstoabundance.com. I want to thank each of you for listening with us today. And what's the one thing you're going to put into action today? Have an amazing week, and I'll see you on the next episode.